Oh boy, were Bucks fans unhappy when they selected AJ Johnson with the 23rd overall pick in the 2024 NBA draft. Now, to some extent, I get it. The expectation is to win now, especially with aging veterans like Chris Middleton, Brook Lopez, Damian Lillard, and one of the best players in the world, in Giannis Antetokounmpo. And unfortunately, AJ Johnson just simply isn't ready to contribute to winning basketball on a championship contender this year. The biggest reason for that, though, is just he needs to add weight. He's just light. That's all it is, really, at this point. AJ's time in the NBL was tough. Yeah, he was kind of put in a tough situation. Physically, he wasn't ready for one of the toughest leagues in the world. And his minutes reflected that, where depending on the game, he would range anywhere from 2 minutes at the end of a half to 10 minutes on a good day. All of that led to some pretty disappointing numbers. So if you weren't fully tuned in to NBL play and really monitoring AJ Johnson's tape and his pre NBL tape from high school and only saw his numbers, the disappointment, the frustration with the pick is more than understandable. I ended up with AJ at 15 on my board because every time I watched him, he just popped doing the little things. His intentionality on both ends of the floor was really, really impressive, especially for someone at his age in his situation. Despite how few minutes he was getting, he was always out there doing what was asked of him, executing his responsibilities, doing what needed to be done, making the right rotations, playing physical on defense, not being afraid of sprinkling in some really dynamic creation flashes. The only reason he fell to 23 is because his sample size was so small in the NBL. I really truly believe that if he would have stayed at Texas like he originally committed, which was the program he originally committed to, I think he would have easily been a lottery pick. He has that much upside to his game. And we saw that in Summer League. We saw once the balls kind of rolled out and they were allowed to play, AJ Johnson was one of the most impressive players from start to finish throughout Summer League. He had some big time performances, continued to do those little things, played with physicality, played with intentionality, while also giving us more and more of those dynamic creation flashes that we saw in the NBL. AJ Johnson's going to be a multi-year project, but he could be one of the biggest steals from this draft. I'm Tyler Metcalf. Welcome to Film School. Let's dive in. We're going to start with some of AJ Johnson's half-court scoring and shooting flashes and how he kind of showed some of that versatility where he's able to play on ball, play off ball, and how that can kind of grow into a more dynamic role with this Bucks team, maybe a little quicker than some people anticipate. So here he's just going to kind of initiate the pick and roll, relocate, launch from three. Again, nothing overly crazy here, but it just shows you the comfort level and the confidence that he has in his ability to shoot off the catch and some of his versatility. So here, he's initiating the offense here, running the pick and roll. Tyler Smith is rolling to the rim here. Maybe he could thread a bounce pass here, but he's wary of that low man rotating over. It's not a great window, so he just makes the easy play, kicks it over to Ryan Rollins in the corner, and after he makes that pass, just immediately flares back out, gives Rollins a little more space, and gives himself a little bigger window here. As he receives this pass, he's deep. This is a very deep NBA three. If you're going to be a legitimate shooter, these are the types of threes that you're going to have to consistently take and make. And we can see here that AJ has zero hesitation. Right when he gets that look, he sees the gap between him and Moussa Diabate. He knows that this is basically an open jumper for him, and he just lets it fly. Really confident, sound mechanics, good high release, hops into it, and drains it. Don't worry, Johnson's film gets a little more exciting than just a standard spot up three. Like we can see here, where he's set up in more of an off-ball role and uses his creation ability to create a little bit sexier of a shot. So as the play kind of initiates here, Andre Jackson's running the point. Johnson's set up in the corner and purely an off-ball roll. And Jackson's going to blow past Buzelis here right away, which draws the rotation or the help from the strong side defender. Kids, never help out a strong side corner, especially if you're in an NBA context. And especially when the weak side defender is already making that rotation. So as Jackson drives, weak side defender is going to rotate, but we're keeping our eyes on the strong side defender here, who's already giving Johnson a huge cushion. So as Jackson drives, Johnson's defender has completely abandoned him, and Jackson makes a proper read, great kick out, passes a little low for Johnson to immediately get into, but this is a shot that in time he should be just letting fly with ease. Instead, he hesitates a little bit because he knows that there's an aggressive closeout coming, so he uses a little shot fake here, gets his defender in the air. Tough clip for this defender. And he uses a really good escape dribble and sidestep into the three, creates even more space now that he is 100% convinced that his defender is taken out of the play. Rises up, solid mechanics, a little bit narrow of a base, but drains the three. And this is the type of stuff when you're off ball that really makes you more dynamic of an off ball scorer, because even when you're run off the line and run off your spot, you're able to still punish the defense. And this is the type of stuff that makes Johnson more valuable than a lot of just pure spot-up shooters. On this one, Johnson gives us a taste of him just being a confident and sound pull-up shooter right off the bounce. So as he initiates the offense, just going to run a kind of standard side pick and roll here, nothing overly complicated, and the Clippers just immediately switch it, even though there really isn't a ton of contact here on the screen. There's really no need to switch it, but they do anyways. On the switch, Johnson just kind of toys with his defender, doesn't really do much of anything, but he's comfortable with the gap or the cushion that his defender's giving him. He takes a look here, thinks about making the pass to the cutter, and just instead rises up on this hang dribble right there where he's thinking about the pass. It sends Diabate back just a little half step, freezes him for just a split second. Diabate's, giving him a little bit more space than maybe than Johnson's initial defender would have, because of Johnson's athleticism and ability to get downhill. Johnson's comfortable with this gap, quickly rises up. We can see how quickly he can get into a shot, the quick release, especially off the bounce here, where as he's releasing this ball, Diabate's hand really isn't even up. And this is more or less an open look, even though he kind of gets a late contest here. The ball's already well out of his hands, and he drains the shot. Again, nothing shockingly complicated, but a real testament to Johnson's confident shooting and quick release. The biggest hurdle for Johnson in terms of scoring at the NBA level, especially early in his career, is just going to be his lack of strength. But he did give us some flashes and some taste of his ability to get downhill and finish through contact. So as he's going to get this handoff, he's just going to get the switch with Kobe Brown, who is a solid defender, really strong player, older than Johnson, obviously, but a solid defender. And Johnson's just going to kind of show off his speed, show off his handle a little bit. So a couple hang dribbles, crosses over, and does a really good job here of getting Brown to reach. As he does that, he does a really good job of making sure that crossover goes all the way over to his left hand. He shields it with his body and fights through the reach by Brown here and is able to turn the corner and get downhill. Since Brown was pretty aggressive on ball there, and Johnson doesn't yet have that strength to really fight directly through it, his route got a little more rounded, which forced him out towards this far side of the lane instead of being a step or two closer in, which would have given him a better angle to attack downhill. But the mentality and the approach that we're seeing from Johnson here is exactly what we want to see from young players who aren't quite strong enough to consistently compete, where he's not afraid of the contact here. So since Brown was able to kind of push him out a little farther, he was able to stay on his hip. Johnson does a great job of really firmly planting that right foot. Let's go back just a little bit. See him really get downhill. Good deceleration, sends Brown just past him enough where he's able to hang a little longer in the air, avoid the help defender, avoid Kobe Brown's initial block attempt, and finish through the contact. Johnson being this aggressive, being this confident, and not shying away from contact like this is really, really encouraging, because a year, 2, 3, 4 years from now, once he's added 15, 20, 25 pounds of muscle, that 25 is probably a bit much, but just once his body continues to mature and he still has this mindset of getting downhill, his scoring and overall effectiveness on both ends of the floor is going to be so much greater. Johnson got to show off a lot in Summer League that a lot of people weren't ready for, but I think the biggest surprise for most people was his playmaking. And we saw some of the on-ball scoring stuff and how that can translate to him being more of an on-ball player, but if you're going to have the ball in your hands, you have to be able to create for others. And again, all of this is long-term thinking with Johnson, that it's not going to be next year, but after that, into the future, this is the type of stuff that we hopefully will continue to see from Johnson as he continues to grow. And man, was his playmaking fun. So again, he uses his speed, his athleticism to get downhill pretty quickly. Again, doesn't quite have the strength to totally shut off his defender, to totally put him in jail. That stuff will come in time. But we're still seeing the creativity, the vision, and the overall awareness from Johnson as he drives. Does a great job of decelerating, sends his defender past him. His defender's hips are parallel with the baseline here, and he's stepping through this. Has attracted the full rotation from the weak side defender. And Johnson's Euro step has now drawn the eyes of all 5 defenders and the full attention of 2 defenders while his teammate cuts in from the corner. Johnson adds a little flair with it, with the underhand scoop pass and the look away. Sets up his teammate. Should be an easy dunk. Tough look. But one more time, just the speed, the deceleration, and the creativity and the flair by Johnson is really fun here, and it's something that he didn't get to showcase last year. Johnson also showed us that he has vision to the perimeter when he drives and attacks defenses and collapses defenses, and his eyes aren't just at the rim or just focused on interior passes. As we can see here, again, he's set up in that off-ball role, which is likely what he'll be playing in most early in his career. As the ball swings to him, Jordan Miller's in the middle of the floor here, so that's a huge potential driving lane that Johnson immediately sort of attacks here, because Miller knows that he has a long ways to go to recover, and Johnson immediately attacks against his momentum, attacks back towards the middle of the floor. Now, Miller does a really good job here of kind of flipping his hips and staying with Johnson, so Johnson just plays simple. He makes the easy read, he makes the smart read, and as we can see here, as he drives, all eyes are yet again on Johnson. Kobe Brown is on Tyler Smith here, and Christie is supposed to be on Rollins, but has kind of gotten lost in the shuffle here. Johnson does a really good job of just making the easy play, collapsing the defense, drawing their attention, and then making the easy play, kicking out to the open teammate. As he kicks out to Rollins here, Kobe Brown is out of the play. Christie is scrambling to recover, and since Johnson just pulled Miller all the way with him, and the now weak side defender who was in the strong side corner didn't help off, Tyler Smith has all the space to roll into. Hand up, Rollins makes a good pass. He could have just shot this, but Rollins also had a fantastic summer league, but really kind of smart, creative, incisive pass here to Smith, who doesn't get the initial shot to go, but gets the tip in. And that easy shot at the rim all stems from Johnson's ability to collapse the defense and then just make the simple read by kicking out to the perimeter to the open teammate. Again, Johnson shows us how kind of effortlessly, he's able to leverage his athleticism and his rim pressure to create just the really easy looks for teammates on the perimeter. So he has the switch on, I believe that's Adama Sanogo at the top of the key. That's something he wants to attack in isolation. And these two strong side defenders are kind of panicking. Mainly, I believe this is DJ Stewart. And he's frantically looking over his shoulders. As Beauchamp cuts through, he's going to signal the switch. But Johnson's already attacking downhill, and Stewart is totally lost. Let's back it up just a little bit here. So Johnson, just a little hang dribble, gets Sanogo to kind of step up a little bit, and then he's just going to attack downhill. Sanogo does a good job of staying with him for the most part. If this defender's not here, I think Johnson beats him to the rim, but the defenders are there. So Johnson doesn't force it. He could maybe try and force a shovel pass to Beauchamp here, but again, that's a tough play. It's unnecessary. Stewart is out of the play because he was lost. He was turning his head too much and just kind of miscommunicating with his teammate here. And Tyler Smith is going to do a great job of just sinking into the corner here and improving that passing window for Johnson. So Johnson knows that he just blew past Stewart. He knows that the other help defender is here and the weak side defenders are where they should be, which means Tyler Smith, his teammate, is going to be wide open in the corner, makes the easy kick out to him, and Smith gets to splash that three. This isn't rocket science, but it's a real testament to Johnson's understanding of floor spacing, his overall awareness and understanding of floor mapping, and his willingness to leverage his athleticism and scoring ability into just making the simple play. So something that the Bucks kind of got derided for all year was their lack of athleticism and youth and ability to kind of get out in the open floor and really push in transition, outside of obviously Giannis. That is where AJ Johnson looked at his best. So as we can see here, the second that shot caroms off the rim, he's leaking out in transition. He's looking to push the pace. He's looking to go get an easy bucket. Teammate does a really good job of getting him the ball, and from here, they're now in a 2v1 situation. Jordan Miller's doing his best to recover, but Johnson really shows off his athleticism by initiating the Euro step from really far out. This is a long way to go. Executing your first plant at just outside the elbow, extends through, gets to the middle of the lane here, adjusts inside scoop hand finish to protect the ball, uses the rim. This is really high level stuff and a real testament to Johnson's scoring touch, athleticism, and footwork. Johnson also showed us that he can just grab and go on his own, that he doesn't have to rely on an outlet, and that he could be one of the few players on this Bucks team who can initiate and spark the transition offense for an easy bucket on his own. So first, good rebound in traffic, and from here, before he even takes his first dribble, Johnson knows that there are only 4 defenders remaining. Since this guy went for the rebound, didn't get it, he's now out of the play. Johnson's speed, he's not going to be able to catch up. Johnson immediately attacks, catches this defender with his hips square at midcourt, while Johnson's already going full speed. He eventually gets the corner on him, gets him out of the way, and Johnson's teammate does a really good job of kind of holding up the recovering rim protector just enough here to ensure that Johnson gets a really solid driving lane all the way to the rim. Johnson does a good job of absorbing that contact. I know it's a little tough to see as they get rid of their overlay here, but since Johnson beat the defender to the spot here, he's able to elevate through the contact, absorb it, extend, protect the ball, extend with his left hand, keep it away from that shot blocker, and finish through the contact at full speed. No one else on the Bucks team was able to consistently do this, and give Johnson another year or two, add another 10, 15 pounds of muscle. stuff like this is going to become incredibly common and incredibly effective. And then you think about him doing that in this kind of stuff in the open court, getting out and running with guys like Giannis. Milwaukee could have a very fun transition offense, much quicker than maybe we would have thought given what they showed last year. Johnson wasn't just looking to score, though, when he got out in transition. And this is where the real exciting stuff with him long term kind of comes into play, similar to the half court, where Johnson has some real high level playmaking in the open court as well. So from here, solid rebound off the second effort in traffic here. And as he's grabbing this, before he lands, he knows that there are 3 Clippers who are already behind him in the play. He grabs and he's gone. He's looking to push. Jordan Miller is doing his best to recover, but Johnson's just too fast. And Johnson knows that he has one teammate streaking up the right side. He's got Beauchamp streaking down the left side here. And that this is kind of the only lone defender in the middle of the floor. Johnson does a really good job of kind of stepping through the traffic here, but as he extends through here, he knows he's too far away and kind of too out of control to take a layup. Maybe in time, that's something that he works on, but this would be a really, really tough shot going at the speed he is, kind of being out of control as he is. So instead, he knows that Beauchamp is wide open here in the corner. He's obviously staring him down and makes a really good kick out while being out of control, while falling out of bounds to Beauchamp for the wide open 3. He just can't get the shot to fall. But from start to finish here, this is the type of speed, creativity, and unselfishness that the Bucks are looking for. All right, another kind of really similar situation here where Johnson's aggressiveness and eagerness to get out and run sets up a really easy bucket for his teammate. So right off the bat here, I believe that's Ryan Rollins, does a really good job, really strong rebound, and just right away outlets to A.J. Johnson, who, again, 3 defenders immediately behind the ball. Johnson's going. He's got his head up. He's looking. He knows that he has Chris Livingston in the corner here, Beauchamp streaking down the left side, and 2 defenders in the middle of the floor. So he just kind of keeps attacking until someone stops him. Unlike the last clip where the defender was meeting him right about here, both defenders are now dropping below the free throw line, and Johnson just eats up the space that they give him. So he continues to attack. Again, takes off quite a ways from the hoop, something he'll have to surely work on and improve on. And in time, that's something that tends to improve with age and experience. But by taking off here, he's attracted both defenders. And by doing so, that opens up wide open cutting lanes for Beauchamp and Livingston, given where he has the ball and given where Jordan Miller is, and which defender stepped up. I believe that's Kobe Brown who stepped up, and he was on Johnson's right. So Johnson knows that leaves Chris Livingston wide open. He changes the release point of the ball, little shovel pass around Kobe Brown while also avoiding the charge. Dumps it off to Livingston for the easy dunk. Just one more time, full speed. Johnson really pushes aggressively, attracts both defenders, sets up his teammate. It's just really unselfish and really simple stuff from a player who a lot of people thought didn't deserve a first-round draft pick. And finally, on this one, we get a better sense of Johnson's kind of early offense. It's not quite transition, but it's definitely early offense and his ability to attack mismatches, collapse the defense, and then set up his teammate for, yet again, another easy look. So as Johnson gets the ball here, the Clippers are pretty much matched up. Not necessarily with who they want to be on, but guys are behind the ball. There's not a clear lane and open court for Johnson to attack, but Johnson does have the mismatch with Diabate on him. Now, Diabate's a really athletic player, so it's not a major mismatch, but in terms of positional mismatch, it is. So Johnson likes what he sees and just does a really good job of crossing over and attacking downhill to his left. Diabate does a really good job here of sliding his feet, staying in front of him, and using that strength advantage to keep Johnson away from the rim. Johnson gets downhill. He's in the heart of the defense. He's in the lane, And Chris Livingston has done an awesome job of kind of just following the play and beating Kobe Brown down the court. Johnson has the awareness that he knows that there's a ton of space that he just vacated, a huge area of the floor that he just opened up for a teammate to cut into, has his eyes up, shovels it to Livingston, who finishes with a nice reverse. So one more time, early offense, good recognition by Johnson, good patience. He might get away with a little bit of a travel, maybe quite a big travel there, dragging his pivot foot, but no whistle, no foul, or no violation. Good awareness, sets up Livingston, does a really good job of shielding the ball. Easy bucket. Just that ability to immediately collapse a defense, set up a teammate, all within the first 8 seconds of the shot clock. It's really valuable stuff going forward. All right, now we just have a couple clips of Johnson's defense, which I think is the most misunderstood aspect of his game, honestly. Now, early in his career, he's not going to be a good defender. I just want to be clear about that. He's not going to be a good defender just because physically he's going to get bullied by a lot of guys. But what we can see from these two clips here is how impressive and how on point his mindset is, how his approach is exactly what it needs to be, sound fundamentals, and that willingness to play with physicality despite not having a strength advantage yet. So the Clippers are going to push here in the early offense, and Johnson is matched up on Jordan Miller, who was incredible throughout Summer League and obviously a really good college player in those final years at Miami. So Miller's going to push, and Johnson does a really good job of just moving his feet, walling up, and staying between Miller and the hoop. He's just making life difficult for Miller without fouling, staying vertical. Obviously, he's getting moved because Jordan Miller is a lot older and a lot more mature and a lot stronger than Johnson, but Johnson has that mindset of fighting. He's not shying away from the contact. He's not surrendering space to Miller just because he's not as strong. He is in there fighting, and that's the important thing that we want to see from younger guys, especially those who are behind from a strength standpoint, because the strength will come. That's easy to fix. Fixing a mindset, that's a little more difficult. And that doesn't seem to be something that the Bucks are going to have to worry about with Johnson. Does a really good job of walling up. He might even get the block there. But one more time, just great physicality. Needs to clean up the footwork a little bit, but they're quick enough and he's on balance enough where he's really doing a fantastic job of disrupting Miller and not allowing him to get to the rim, which is something that a lot of guys can't say from Summer League. All right, finally, this one is a little more on ball in the half court. Shows a little bit of Johnson's screen navigation ability to kind of stay on his hip, and it's about 95% really, really good defense. So Johnson's over here on the right wing. Ball's going to swing to Stewart into a little DHO, and Johnson does a really good job of kind of getting skinny, getting around that screen, and staying attached to Stewart's hip. It's really solid screen navigation. He feeds him into the drop defender. Drop defender does a good job of just showing long enough to kind of deter Stewart from getting downhill. And Johnson's attached on Stewart's hip. The problem here is that his hips are totally square to the baseline. So any step back here, any sudden change of speed or direction from Stewart, and Johnson's going to be kind of vulnerable, as we'll see here in just half a second. So Stewart rises up. Johnson, we see that he kind of gets off balance there. His leg buckles a little bit, and that's where he kind of gets caught out of position, where just that little buckle as Stewart quickly rises up. Now, an NBA guard's probably going to knock this down, but, Johnson gets a little bit of a late contest in there. Ball's already out. Probably didn't make much of a difference. Stewart leaves it short, but the part that I kind of want to really focus on here is Johnson is this first kind of 40% of the play, 50% of the play, with Johnson's ability to really get skinny, get over that screen, kind of absorb the little hip check there, doesn't affect him, and then stays glued to Stewart's hip, What he has to do better about here is kind of swinging that right foot back over a little bit more to improve his hip angle, to improve his balance. So when guys who are, no shade on DJ Stewart, but who are a little better than Stewart immediately rise up in this area, Johnson isn't buckling because he's scrambling to recover to the change of direction. Instead, if he's, obviously all of this is easier said than done, but it should come in time because I believe Johnson's mindset is where it needs to be. But instead of stepping there, Johnson has to be at least perpendicular to the baseline here. At this point, his teammate has done a really good job of helping him out, and Johnson just has to improve that footwork, get his hips back where they need to be, and that'll make sure that when guys rise up like this, his knees aren't buckling quite that extreme. So some work to do, but overall, a really, really good place to start from a screen navigation standpoint and a pursuit standpoint. I know what you're thinking, and yes, it's just Summer League, but Summer League matters. Not everything necessarily matters, but a lot of it matters because for some guys, like AJ Johnson, it's the first time we're seeing them get to actually play. Coming into the draft, there were a lot of analysts who didn't even have a draftable grade on AJ Johnson simply because of how unfortunate his situation in the NBL was this year. He was lucky if he got minutes. And as he showed in the combine, as he showed in the pre-draft process, as he showed in Summer League, it wasn't because he couldn't play. Johnson has done a really good job over this last year or so, showing that he can do the little things on both ends of the floor. That, yeah, he's skinny. Yes, he needs to add muscle, but that'll come. His mindset doesn't need changing. He's willing to play and eager to play with a sense of physicality, attacking downhill and playing defense. He doesn't shy away from contact. In fact, he invites it. He welcomes it. We saw that he's willing to wall up on defense. We saw that he's willing to attack the rim and utilize his athletic tools to create different looks for himself and others. The playmaking, the scoring versatility, there's so much upside there. As Johnson adds 10, 15, 20 pounds, as his body continues to mature and the game slows down for him mentally, he could be one of the biggest steals in this draft. For Bucks fans, I know it's frustrating that he probably isn't going to be a contributor much, if at all, this year. And when you're talking about that, when you're talking about a first round pick for a championship contender, that's tough news. But some of these guys, a lot of these guys on the Bucks are rapidly aging out. And in a year, 2 years' time, AJ Johnson could be one of the major pieces, either in a trade that brings in a different star or one of their building blocks going forward. I know it sounds hyperbolic, but what AJ Johnson showed throughout Summer League is exactly what he showed in high school. It's exactly what garnered the hype and the high recruiting status coming out of high school. If he would have stayed at Texas and showed this stuff, he would have been a top 10 pick. That's how high his upside is. That's how real the athletic tools and the talent is. AJ Johnson had a really, really strong Summer League, and hopefully he's able to continue building on this throughout the season and continues to develop his body, because if he does, and when he does, the Bucks are going to have a really, really good player on their hands.